Alright, today I'm going to be listening to a song cycle by Italian composer Franco Donatoni. It's called L'Ultima Sera. It was written in 1980, and it's for Pierrot Ensemble, as well as female voice. There's nothing here about the specific instrumentation. I think it's just as plain as a Pierrot Ensemble can get, but if I see any doublings, I'll mention them after I listen here. I'm going to be listening to this recording by the MIDI Ensemble, and it's on poems by Fernando Pessoa, apparently. So, but obviously very fragmented. You can see that none of the texts for any of the movements are complete poems. They're just excerpts of poems. And I've prepared some Google translations here of the Italian in case you're curious. So just give me a moment and I'll get into that. And then I think we can start journeying forth and listening to this recording. So if we look at the text here, it's in 8 movements. The first and ultimate movements are from poems titled Station on the Cross, so alluding to Christ's crucifixion. And there are 13 stations, as you may know. Station 10 is the first movement, and Station 7 is the 8th movement. Alright, here are my meager translations here. So for the first movement, I told myself in the shadows without understanding myself, today I know the desert where God once had the capital of oblivion. Okay, and then the text for the second one, to return to an ancient and calm night like the landscape when the day dies. Movement 3, the wind out there. Movement 4, cradles everyone in his arms, a dead son. Movement 5, foreigner here as everywhere. Movement 6, I didn't translate this one properly. Give me a second. Movement 6, be maternal to me, O peaceful night. Movement 7, the silence that is accentuated by the buzz or whisper of a nothing in the dark. And then the last movement, sick and in a twilight of swords, dying among flying flags, the last evening of a burning empire. And that phrase at the very end, the last evening, is the title of the piece, L'Ultima Sera. At first it may not look like 30 minutes of text, but if we look at Donatoni's writing, you'll see that he fragments and repeats the text a lot, similar to the way that he fragments his musical ideas. And that's something I've noticed in a lot of his vocal scores. So you can see the text repeating on this page and then this page, and slowly evolving. Let's get into it. Hopefully it's interesting experience and all these texts can come across in the diverse movements here. Nice. All right, so this was oddly calming to listen to. I had a pretty stressful day up until this point, but yeah, something about this just really was transfixing for whatever reason today. And following along with the score was a real pleasure to see the ensemble work together throughout the piece. There's lots of interesting textures that come and go, but all of them most of them use the entire ensemble, which I think is really neat. Some of the things that stood out for me were the use of grace notes and trills to decorate the passages, and if I can find like this stuff at the end with the grace notes is super cool. And I think if I had a favorite movement, it would be the second last one. Movement 7 had a really cool texture throughout that never changed, and it was like the entire ensemble against the violin, and then later the violin plus cello, punctuated by everybody else coming in with the singer. It was really cool, and a cool use of harmonics. That would be a fun one to try and analyze, see how it's related to the rest of the piece. A lot of the movements with shorter texts were really interesting, especially the third one, which is almost all just on one syllable. Like one, it's on a vowel mostly until the very end, and I think Donatoni often saves a lot of the text to the end of the movement, so that you're not quite sure where it's going until the the very end, and it does have that sort of energy that's always constantly pushing forward, and um, yeah, clearly a very sophisticated work and completely different from the other piece of his we looked at, Lumen, which was written 5 years earlier. I think here he was very much trying to focus on the like pitches and lines he was writing. I didn't see so much like interest in breaking up the ensemble into families. There wasn't so much of an interest in like the timbral possibilities, although that was there a little bit. It was mostly just like, um, how do I have everyone on the ensemble play notes? That's that one, and I'm glad that we got to some Donatoni in this series. This will be the last one of his we look at, but I think the influence of Pierrot Lunaire and this ensemble with voice is very strong, and this would pair really nicely with Pierrot Lunaire, I think. It's doing an entirely different thing, but it's got exactly the same sort of surrealist, expressionist kind of vibe. So, yeah, really cool piece to know about.